Good evening, I'm Leila Massimova and you're watching A News. Here's the top stories for tonight. Powerful 7.7 magnitude earthquake strikes Myanmar, tremors felt in Thailand and China. Israel strikes Beirut in fast, heavy bombardment since truce. The European Union Central Asia ministerial meeting held in Turkmenistan. To Southeast Asia now, where a powerful earthquake killed dozens in Myanmar, toppling buildings and damaging infrastructure. The quake also hit Thailand.
Myanmar and Thailand were struck by a devastating earthquake. Dozens have been killed and even more injured in both countries. People are being rescued from under the rubble in Myanmar, where many buildings have collapsed, including a mosque, monastery and a hotel. Roads and bridges have also been destroyed. The situation has been complicated by civil war currently taking place in Myanmar. The earthquake ricocheted through Southeast Asia, with the tremors being felt as far away as China's Yunnan province. In Bangkok, a high-rise building collapsed with dozens of people declared missing. A local resident gave her account of the exact moment she felt the earthquake.
I was sleeping on my bed and at first I thought my head was spinning. So I moved to see what was happening and things started swaying even more, so I quickly ran to my kids and we quickly took cover under the table. But it didn't stop and it swayed even more than before. I heard things falling down from upstairs like it was stones hitting down on us. I told my kids we can't stay here and we have to get out of here. So we ran down to get down here. I'm still shaking.
Myanmar declared a state of emergency in its capital, and Thailand declared a zone of disaster in Bangkok. According to US Geological Survey, the quake had a magnitude of 7.7 and was at a depth of 10 kilometers. The epicenter was about 17.2 kilometers from the city of Mandalay.
Israel on Friday launched an attack on the Lebanese capital, Beirut, for the first time since the ceasefire ended, the latest Israel-Hezbollah war in November. Plumes of smoke were seen in southern Lebanon on Friday as Israel bombarded Hezbollah positions. The military says the strike was in response to a rocket launch, though Hezbollah denies any role. Early Israel warned it would target a Hezbollah-affiliated building in Beirut's southern suburbs, ordering residents to evacuate. Now let us hear from A News correspondent Adnan Nasir, who reports from Beirut.
Today marks a boiling point in the ceasefire between Lebanon and Israel, which was signed by both parties to cease all hostilities on November 27th of last year. Now the Israelis have escalated the situation by bombing a building in the Dahiya area, sits at the heart of Beirut. Hezbollah denies the allegation that the building they had struck was used as a weapons facility, and that they have also previously denied any involvement in the rocket strikes into northern Israel, which the Israelis used as a justification to attack Beirut. For more updates, follow us at A News in Beirut.
This was Adnan Nasir, A News correspondent, who joined us from Lebanon. U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance is visiting Greenland today amid controversy. His visit follows President Donald Trump's renewed push to acquire the Danish territory.
US Vice President J.D. Vance is visiting Greenland today after President Donald Trump again expressed interest in acquiring the Danish territory. During his visit, Vance will tour the US military base at Pituffik in northern Greenland. However, a planned visit by his wife, Usha, to the capital Nuuk and a well-known dog sled race was cancelled due to local protests. Opinion polls indicate that the vast majority of Greenlanders oppose becoming part of the United States.
I would like to say to Trump, don't even think about repeating it. Don't even think about repeat it that you want Greenland. We don't want you here. That's a clear message. We don't want you here.
It was not well planned because we have elected a new parliament but the parliament, they have not formed a new government. Trump and his administration know that. They take a benefit of this situation. Greenland without the government, it's not a good idea for Trump to come in here and his wife and like that. They have to wait.
Speaking to journalists on Wednesday, Trump reiterated his desire to take control of Greenland, emphasising the island's strategic importance for both national and international security.
I think we'll go as far as we have to go. We need Greenland, and the world needs us to have Greenland, including Denmark. Denmark has to have us have Greenland.
In his major speech at the Arctic Forum, Russian President Vladimir Putin supported Trump's steps by saying US is serious about Greenland.
The US have really serious plans about Greenland. These plans, as I've already said, have old historic origins, and it is obvious that the US will further systematically promote their geostrategic, military, politic and economic interest in the Arctic.
Greenland's outgoing Prime Minister, Mute Egede, condemned the US approach as highly aggressive, while Denmark's Prime Minister accused Washington of exerting undue pressure. The recent March 2025 elections in Greenland saw significant shifts, with the centre-right Democrats securing 10 seats, signalling a potential change in government direction. As coalition talks begin, the new political landscape may influence Greenland's stance on its relationship with the US and its Arctic interests.
Tech billionaire Elon Musk says he will finish most of the work to cut to $1 trillion in federal spending when his tenure ends at the end of May. However, budget experts question whether his plan is realistic without touching Social Security.
Tech billionaire Elon Musk says he's confident his Department of Government Efficiency could find $1 trillion in savings in the coming weeks. It will slim the current total federal spending levels of about $7 trillion down to $6 trillion. The leader of the Doge made the comment on Fox News. His role as a special government employee is expected to end in May, and he says his team is on course to reach their target.
Our goal is to reduce the deficit by $1 trillion. From a nominal deficit of $2 trillion to try to cut the deficit in half to $1 trillion, or looked at it in total federal spending to drop the federal spending from $7 trillion to $6 trillion. Well, I think we will have accomplished most of the work required to reduce the deficit by $1 trillion within that time frame.
The chief executive of Tesla has led a fierce campaign to reduce government spending, including significant cuts in US aid global funding. Experts argue that reaching his target without entitlement cuts is unlikely. However, Musk claims the cost-cutting effort will not affect Social Security.
No, in fact, what we're doing will help their benefits. Legitimate people, as a result of the work of Doge, will receive more Social Security, not less. I want to emphasize that. As a result of the work of Doge, legitimate recipients of Social Security will receive more money, not less money.
Despite facing criticism for mass terminations to save costs, Musk insists there have not been as many layoffs compared to the overall federal workforce. His teams say around 75,000 workers accepted buyouts out of a total of more than 3 million, according to reports.
More countries are reacting to US President Donald Trump's 25% tariff increase on imported vehicles, set to take effect next week.
Off with a 2.5% base, which is
US President Donald Trump's plan to impose steep 25% tariffs on imported vehicles from next week is facing strong international opposition. He says the move is to boost domestic manufacturers. French President Emmanuel Macron says the decision will harm both US and European economies.
Pour le coup, je pense que c'est pas une bonne idée.
I think planned tariffs by US President Donald Trump is not a good idea. I've said this to President Trump. I told him yesterday, and I will keep telling him. At a moment when we can see well, the markets in the United States do not consider this a good economic policy, At a moment when President Trump rightly is asking Europeans to make more defence efforts to ensure their own security, saying, "It's up to you to do this, we should not have to pay for you." It's not the time to impose tariffs on us, so it's not coherent.
Donc c'est pas cohérent.
South Korea's Industry Minister Ahn Duk-gun says the tariffs will impact not just car makers but also suppliers.
About 50% of our automobile exports go to the United States, so there are concerns about significant damage to the auto industry. The difficulties will be especially severe for not only the finished car manufacturers, but also the parts suppliers. Global uncertainties are growing, but South Korean auto companies will not be fighting alone.
Brazil's President Lula warns of economic consequences and plans to challenge the move at the World Trade Organization.
I believe that President Trump, as President of the United States, has the right to make decisions within the United States. What he needs to do is to consider the consequences of these decisions. What will be the effect of this decision on the United States? Honestly, if he is thinking about making this decision to tax everything that the United States imports, I think it will be detrimental to the United States. It will raise the prices of goods and could lead to inflation that he hasn't yet realized.
The US imported roughly 8 million cars last year, accounting for about $240 billion in trade and roughly half of overall sales. Analysts estimate that the cost of a car could rise significantly, with 25% tariffs on parts from Mexico and Canada alone, adding up to $4,000 to $10,000.
In the meantime, British Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer, while he's being questioned on whether Britain would react to the latest US auto tariffs set the UK reserves the right to respond, adding that his government was involved in ongoing discussions with the White House aimed at mitigating the impact of any levies. Joining us now live from North Yorkshire, the UK, is Andy Preston, political commentator. Mr. Preston, great to have you with us.
Hi, nice to meet you.
First of all, how tricky is the situation for the incumbent Labour government? After all, the US is the second largest export market after the European Union for cars built in the UK.
Yeah, it's very, very tricky for the new Labour government, but of course, I have to say, it isn't just a British problem. What we've got across the world now is a trading system which is intertwined. Everybody is linked. And that's why, despite this being an attempt to protect US industry, the US stock market has fallen 5% since Donald Trump was elected. The US dollar has fallen 5% since Donald Trump was inaugurated. So there's immense nervousness across the whole globe. But in the UK in particular, we've got $9 billion worth of car exports to the USA. So it's a big fear. And there's talk of actually trying to do a deal, of give a concession to Trump in another field and do digital sales. The problem with someone like Trump, if you concede, if you give ground and show willing, he will come back for more at a later stage. So I think British people, but the whole world, is very anxious about Trump's approach to trade tariffs.
Thank you, Mr. Preston. And in general, Mr. Preston, do you think this attempt to bank on a special relationship to avoid Trump's tariffs will eventually work?
I think that, yes. I mean, there's been a very close relationship culturally, historically, financially and militarily between the USA and Great Britain. And Britain tried to play up to that and flatter Donald Trump when Keir Starmer, our Prime Minister, visited him about a month ago and gave him a letter from the King inviting him for a second state visit. And that's great. It's good to be nice to your friends and allies. The issue is for Britain is that Trump isn't the kind of guy that will be nice because we've been nice to him. He will be nice to us if he feels that we are strong. And there's a sense now in Britain that our government is being too soft and too generous, too worried about the past relationship, and that we need to be a lot tougher and think about perhaps closer relationships with Europe, Canada and Australia.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much indeed for your analysis. This was Andy Preston, political commentator and analyst who joined from North Yorkshire's United Kingdom. Egypt's Red Sea governor has visited the injured after a tourist submarine accident off Hurghada. 6 Russian tourists lost their lives while 39 others were rescued.
All passengers are accounted for after a tourist submarine sank off Egypt's Red Sea resort city of Hurghada on Thursday. The underwater vessel was carrying 45 Russian tourists along with crew members when it went down. 6 Russians lost their lives and 39 people were rescued. The injured were taken to local hospitals and the majority of survivors returned to their hotels. Egypt's Red Sea governor, General Amr Hanafi, visited those in hospital. The Sinbad submarine was equipped with large portholes for passengers to observe coral reefs and marine life, according to its company website. It was capable of diving up to 25 metres below the surface. The Red Sea plays a crucial role in Egypt's tourism sector, particularly for Russian visitors. However, maritime accidents are not uncommon. In November, a tourist boat capsized off the Egyptian coast, killing 4 people. Similar incidents have raised concerns about safety measures in the region's popular diving and sightseeing activities.
Haitians took to the streets of Port-au-Prince on Thursday, demanding action against rising gang violence.
In Port-au-Prince, Haiti, protests have erupted as residents demand government action against escalating gang violence. Armed groups now control approximately 85% of the metropolitan area, home to a third of Haiti's population. In the past month alone, over 60,000 people have been displaced due to violent attacks in neighborhoods such as Carrefour Feuille and Bas-Peu de Choses. The United Nations reports that from July to February, more than 4,200 individuals were killed, underscoring the severity of the crisis. Haiti's national police force, comprising about 9,000 officers, struggles to maintain order for a population exceeding 11 million. The deteriorating security situation has led to international concern, with the US Department of State advising against travel to Haiti due to risks of kidnapping, crime, and civil unrest. As the humanitarian crisis deepens, the international community faces mounting pressure to support Haiti in restoring stability and safeguarding its citizens.
French prosecutors have requested a 7-year prison sentence and a substantial fine for former President Nicolas Sarkozy. He is accused of accepting illegal Libyan funding for his 2007 campaign, of which he denies.
This trial is one of the most serious legal cases former President Sarkozy has faced since leaving office in 2012. French prosecutors have requested a 7-year prison sentence and a €300,000 fine for Sarkozy. They also called for a 5-year ban on Sarkozy's civic, civil and family rights, which would prevent him from holding elected office or serving in any public role. The charges relate to allegations that his 2007 presidential campaign received illegal funding from Muammar Gaddafi's Libyan government. The 70-year-old also faces charges of passive corruption, illegal campaign financing, and criminal conspiracy. Prosecutors have also requested prison sentences for his former associates, including Claude Guéant, Brice Hortefeux, and Eric Worth, with fines of up to €150,000. Prosecutor Sébastien de la Touane called the case high-intensity corruption, accusing Sarkozy of making a Faustian pact with one of the world's most controversial dictators. Sarkozy denies all wrongdoing and says the allegations are politically motivated. The trial began in January and is expected to conclude on the 10th of April. The case dates back to 2011, when Gaddafi and a Libyan news agency claimed that millions of euros had been secretly funneled into Sarkozy's 2007 campaign. A 2012 investigation by the French outlet revealed a Libyan intelligence memo that referred to a €50 million funding deal, which Sarkozy denied as a forgery. Sarkozy's legal troubles also include previous convictions for corruption and influence peddling, with an appeals court upholding a separate ruling on illegal campaign financing from his 2012 re-election bid.
Diplomats from Central Asia and European Union came to Gaza for the ministerial meeting in Ashgabat. They discussed regional priorities. The gathering also served to prepare for the upcoming EU Central Asia Summit in Uzbekistan next week.
The 20th European Union Central Asia Ministerial Meeting has taken place in Ashgabat, Turkmenistan. The meeting, hosted by Turkmenistan's Foreign Minister Rashid Meredov, brought together top diplomats from Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, and the European Union. Turkmenistan's Foreign Minister says the gathering is a constructive way to develop relationships.
Integrated cooperation between Central Asia and the European Union is one of the most important strategic vectors of development in Eurasia. Objectively, it creates conditions for better understanding on the basis of mutual respect and equality.
EU's Foreign Affairs representative, Kaja Kallas, says building on relationships is key for further successful developments.
And I'm also happy that we will have the leaders level summit already next week. I think this is extremely important that this happens this time. It will be an important milestone in our relationship, and we attach great importance to the success of this summit. And we are here to prepare this successful summit, so I look forward to the cooperation in this regard.
The agenda covered a broad range of regional priorities, from trade, investment and transport to security, green energy, education and innovation. The impact of the situations in Afghanistan and Ukraine on the region were also a key topic. The ministers reviewed progress on the EU Central Asia Enhanced Cooperation Roadmap to 2030, focusing on deepening political dialogue, boosting economic ties, and expanding cooperation in energy, communications, and public diplomacy. Security concerns were high on the list, with discussions on combating violent extremism, cyber threats, disinformation, human trafficking, and border protection.
Independence leaders and human rights advocates gathered in Baku to address ongoing political and humanitarian concerns in former and current colonies. Participants called for urgent international action to support affected communities.
Representatives of independence movements from French and Dutch territories gathered in Baku ahead of the international conference, Colonialism, Erasure of National Religious Identity. Organised by the Baku Initiative Group, the event brought together experts on decolonisation, reparations and human rights. Prominent independence figures engaged with journalists during the press conference. Family members of Kanak political prisoners who have been illegally detained by the French government also attended the event.
After the natural disaster in Mayotte, there was no plan. France should have been prepared for this. Instead of helping the area affected by the cyclone, France came and set up a military base there. The priority should have been to help the suffering population.
The families highlighted inhumane detention conditions, violations of legal rights, and restricted access to legal defence. Representatives also condemned Paris's inaction in response to natural disasters. They emphasised that the French government seeks to silence anyone who asks for help.
France is arresting independent supporters on drug charges, but this is completely unfounded. The arrests are politically motivated. They are being imprisoned and tortured because they want independence. The families of the prisoners are also suffering.
The discussion also shed light on ongoing human rights violations in New Caledonia's fight for independence and reinforced the need for international intervention.
And more on this international conference held in Baku. Joining me now live is one of its participants, Mr. Cédric Famille-Belair-Bronzola, representing the organization known as Ubuntu. So grateful to you for joining us, sir.
Thank you for the invitation.
First of all, could you Please briefly tell us about your participation in this conference.
So we're in Baku today to talk about colonialism and the erasure of national religious identities. The Baku Initiative Group allows us to highlight the actions of the French colonial state. France wants to erase our culture, language, and traditions. So it's important to us that the nations of the world see the true face of France.
And what are the key concerns that the community you represent wants to be heard and resolved?
So our concerns are many, but the main one is the independence of Réunion Island and all the other French colonies. The first step toward emancipation will enable us to assert our respective identities, languages, and cultures. We are French by obligation. We didn't choose to be. We don't want our peoples to be used as cannon fodder by Macron, Zelensky, or von der Leyen. France's war with Russia is not our concern. In conclusion, with God's help, we will win our independence by any means necessary.
That's an interesting answer. Thank you so much for your time, sir.
Thank you.
This was Cédric Famille-Bellet-Pronzola from the Ka Ubuntu organization. A new railway corridor has been inaugurated in Afghanistan, marking a significant step forward for regional connectivity. The corridor is anticipated to greatly enhance Afghanistan's economy by offering a direct and efficient trade route to European markets via Iran. Tamim Bahis has more from Kabul, Afghanistan.
The long-awaited Afghanistan-Iran-Europe railway corridor has officially been launched, marking a major milestone in regional trade and connectivity, the Embassy of Iran in Kabul announced. In a ceremony attended by the Iranian Consul General and the Governor of Herat, the first shipment of Afghan exports was dispatched from Herat, making its way through Iran to Turkey and Europe. Developed in cooperation with Iran, this new corridor is expected to significantly boost Afghanistan's economy by providing a direct, efficient trade route to European markets. Experts say the expansion of Afghanistan's railway network holds enormous strategic importance. It positions the country as a key connector between Central Asia, South Asia, the Middle East, and Europe, turning Afghanistan into a vital bridge for regional commerce. With continued investment and regional cooperation, the corridor could play a pivotal role in reshaping Afghanistan's economic landscape. This is Tamim Bahis in Kabul for A News.
That's all we have for this evening. Stay with A News and have a wonderful night.